Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Josh and I run a service-based business. I'm a financial advisor who runs a wealth management company. Recently, I was actually just meeting with someone in my industry who was just starting out, and we were on the golf course and we were chatting, and you know, I'm a little more senior in the business. I've got like 5 or 6 years under my belt, which is enough to have, I guess, a bit of an edge in terms of experience. And one of the questions this newer advisor asked me was, Josh, like, how long does it really take before things start to ramp up? Like, I feel like I'm slogging it out and I'm being patient and I'm doing all the right things, but it's just such a grind. Like, nothing's really happening. And I think this is exactly where I was when I was first starting my service-based company, probably, 6 years ago. I was thinking about, holy crap, this takes forever to actually get some momentum and to start growing. And that's the exact headspace I was in, right? It's like, man, I'm doing all this work and does this ever pay off? And the funny thing is you talk to people who are more senior and they say,
just keep putting in the work, stay patient, do the right things, be referable, and don't worry, it's all gonna come your way.
And for me, I never really understood that because in the moment, that wasn't working. And in the moment, you really just want to have the answers. How is it that your business starts to grow? At what point do you maybe have some sort of breakthrough? When do you get some bigger client or a breakthrough client that actually starts to propel your business to a new level? That's what was in my mind. I was trying to figure that out. And it's funny because after 5 or 6 years of having some of these breakthrough clients start to come through, my main job was in my head, I wanted to encourage this young advisor and help him understand, like, how long is this gonna take? I wanted to give him some real physical, tangible piece of advice that would help him and encourage him to stick with it. And so this actually got me to reflect on where I was and what chain of events led me to getting my biggest clients. What allowed me to break through to those next levels? Because at the end of the day, that's what any service-based business owner wants, is they want to propel their business to that next level. So they're not forever stuck doing what I was doing at the beginning and just taking a massive swath of very small clients and being spread way too thin and not quite making enough. And so I wanted to think back on what were some of the bigger clients that I got and where did they come from? And it's funny, as I'm saying this, one of the big names comes to mind. Let's call them Henry. So to give you a quick picture about who Henry is, he's an older retiree, salt of the earth guy, so kind, so great to deal with. He's one of those guys you go to meet with and you're just so excited. You're actually looking forward to the meeting and it's great for business. It's kind of this win-win. And if I think back to where this came from, because in the initial days, having a client as big or as great as Henry was just off the table. It wasn't gonna happen. This is how far back this goes. When I was in the 11th grade in high school, I decided to start an investment club in our school. And what I did was I got a bunch of kids together who might want to learn about investing, and we got like a lunchtime group together where we would like look up different stocks and we'd research companies and we try to build a portfolio. And we had, every club in the school needed a teacher to supervise it. And the teacher that supervised it was this guy that kind of always believed in me. He was always really nice to me. He was the kind of guy that wanted to follow up with me after school. He knew about the sports I played and he was really into investing in business. He was actually one of the business teachers in the school. And over time, we were running this investment club and it was going great. But then as I graduated and moved on, there's more to the story. I would go back to that school and volunteer and give my time. And there was one time when I went to go speak to a group of grade 12 kids who were graduating, and I was supposed to give them some sort of like career pep talk. And that teacher that supervised my investment club came to talk to me after the talk, and he said, hey, there's someone near and dear to me in my life who family just passed away. They're in a position now where they're selling their house. They're amalgamating all of their retirement assets. They're putting it all into one place. And I'm wondering if you want to maybe have a look at this. And I thought to myself, whoa, okay. As a young financial advisor in my position, you hear the word someone selling their entire house, amalgamating all their assets in one place and needs your help. That's like too good to be true. That's like a home run. And in my mind at the time, I had maybe come across some opportunities where I could have had some breakthrough client, but it always fell through. Every single time it would fall through. So my first thought was, hey, don't get too excited. Don't count the eggs before they hatched, like this might not play out. And I was just kind of like having that self-doubt, like don't get too excited because you don't want this whole thing to fall through and then your expectations will be missed and you'll be all upset. But what ended up happening is that we have ended up setting up a meeting and we did a fantastic job. I was pretty nervous, to be honest, but the pitch went great. And because of the recommendation from this teacher I had, 11 years later, that's not 11 years, is it? We had the meeting. To be honest, I was pretty nervous, but at the end of the day, because of this relationship I had with this teacher from like 9 years prior and the trust that I had built over time, the client, Henry, pretty much within 2 or 3 months had signed on the dotted line and we had our first massive breakthrough client. Like it was one of those ones that just, it changes the whole dynamic of your business. And I think like what is the lesson here, right? Like what are we trying to glean from this? And what I was thinking about is that the very precipice of that, the seed that was planted, took 9 years, right? So it took 9 years of kind of serendipity of me building trust with a certain person. And over time, it's not as if you're gonna make one blog post, you're gonna make one cold call, or you're gonna do one thing that gets you some massive client. It's almost as if you were trying to build trust with someone so that 5 or 6 or 7 years down the road, when there's someone that they know that might need you, you're the first person that comes to mind. It's much less about trying to sell someone or cold call or put out a piece of content that changes everything. It's about planting that seed and letting it grow, and then over time, I think this is the lesson, right? 9 years it took for that little altruistic act, that little volunteering of starting an investment club to finally come to fruition and end up being a client. So when a new advisor asks, what does it really take to get those breakthrough clients? This is a story that's hard to explain in 1 minute, but this is how it works, right? It's a process of nurturing, planting seeds, and just staying unbelievably patient. But when people used to say it to me, like stay patient, I wouldn't believe it. I didn't really know what to think. So the moral of the story there is when we talk about patience, it really has real utility, because a lot of the times things won't work out until way after you've put in the initial work or planted that initial seed. I mean, a great story that comes to mind again is a client, let's call them Jim and Pam, okay? So this one is kind of the same idea, right? So the crazy thing about this story is back in 2013, I was featured in an article in something called the Free Press, which is like my local paper where I live. And I was featured along some other hobbyist investor. We were like these young investor kids featured in this article talking about like financial literacy month, because we were stock traders when we were way too young to be. So anyways, I met this guy in this article back in 2013. This was like right after I graduated high school, or even like pretty much the same time I was graduating. And what happened was we kind of stayed in touch over time, and he became an investment professional. He became a CFA. We'd go for lunch, we'd grab a drink, and we just kind of exchange business ideas because we were both passionate about the same thing. And then over time, like I said, many years later, I remember he was familiar with our business model. You see, the main competitive advantage of my business when I started it is that most investment management institutions or financial services companies that are really good at what they do typically have a massive client minimum, like $500,000 or $300,000. And this friend from this article came to me and said, hey, I've got a close family friend from like when I was a child, and their family ran a successful contracting business. And essentially what they want to do is retire and amalgamate all these assets together. And I think I have the perfect strategy for them. The problem is they don't meet our minimums right now. So I'm wondering if you want to take this client on, and then once they sell the business and sell a bunch of their property, then that will be a great account for you. But we just can't take them right now. But they are family friends, so I want to make sure they're well taken care of. So I said, absolutely. But kind of the same thing in my head. Don't count the eggs before they hatch. Like, you don't want to take this too seriously. Don't get your expectations up. And what ended up happening is I got introduced, and again, the power of this referral led these clients to just sign on essentially instantaneously. And it was weird because forever you're working so hard to get these really small clients and having to convince them. And then over time, once you're a little more senior, they kind of fall into your lap and become easy. But I guess the main point I'm trying to get across here is I got featured in some news article in like 2013. And then 8 years later, now that finally comes to fruition, where that connection I made, that I stayed in touch with, nurtured that relationship, has a referral that fits my business model perfectly. And of course, what ends up happening, we take on that client, we do a really good job, and then they sell the business, and they sell the house, and they sell some rental properties, and they get all of this invested, and they need a retirement plan. So it kind of all fell into place where we got this massive client from this random chain of events from something I did 8 years ago. This just brings more reality. It brings more concrete evidence to the notion that if you do the right things and you stay patient, things do work out. Because when senior people tell you this, when more experienced business people say that, they're completely right. It's totally true, but it's hard to articulate how it comes about. So that's what I'm trying to get across here. I'm trying to give you real concrete examples of how doing something, planting a seed, nurturing it, and giving it a lot of time to play out actually comes to fruition. These things actually are true. All in all, guys, I think what I took away from these experiences was the fact that great breakthrough clients typically aren't going to come through your traditional marketing strategies. Big clients are the kind of people who really only start working with someone because of the recommendation of a friend. Typically, that's my experience. And the second thing I would say is that you have to plant seeds with faith that those are gonna pay off way in the future. And in the moment, that's really hard to do because you're planting seeds and you're nurturing them and nothing's happening. But it's the element of time, that element of patience that allows all of these things to pan out. So anyways, guys, those are some of my experience with getting those breakthrough clients that kind of brought our business to the next level. Hopefully that's encouraging for a lot of you guys who are just starting in your service-based business, or you're starting as a financial advisor and you're trying to figure out when does this start to take off, because this is a grind. Well, those are some of my stories. If you got any value out of this video whatsoever, make sure to hit that like button below, hit subscribe, and turn on post notifications for more videos just like this one every single week. Until next time.